When life stops making sense, faith must start making moves. There comes a point in every person's journey where the plan you carefully built with your own hands suddenly slips through your fingers. You wake up one day and what was once clear becomes cloudy. Paths that felt secure now feel unstable, and the questions you never asked before start rising inside you. Why is this happening? What did I do wrong? Where is this all going? In that moment, confusion tries to take the wheel. Fear tries to sit in the driver's seat. Doubt whispers, if God was with you, you wouldn't be here. But that is exactly where trust begins its work, because trust doesn't grow in seasons of comfort. Trust grows when everything around you feels uncertain and you are forced to decide who you're going to believe. Your circumstances or your Creator. When life stops making sense, you're standing at the intersection between what you can see and what God is shaping behind the scenes. And this is the moment when faith must step forward and say, even when the plan breaks, God doesn't. Even when I don't understand the direction, God understands the destination. You see, life is unpredictable, and it will always present moments that shake you, stretch you, confuse you, and sometimes even scare you. That's not because you're failing, it's because you're being built. When everything makes sense, you don't need faith. You don't need to lean on God because the road is straight and the path is smooth. But when the ground beneath you feels like it's shifting, when you can't trace God's hand, that's when He invites you to trust His heart. Every great story in Scripture and every powerful testimony you've ever heard began with a season of confusion, a valley, a setback, a moment where someone thought, this is not how it was supposed to go. But what they didn't realize was that God was not abandoning them. He was positioning them. Confusion does not mean God is absent. Confusion means God is working on something you're not supposed to see yet. If you could see everything clearly, you wouldn't need Him. If you could understand the entire path, you would rely on your own strength, your own wisdom, your own timeline. But God does not build spiritual giants in comfort zones. He builds warriors in places that force you to take steps without clarity, decisions without full understanding, and leaps without knowing where your feet will land. This is the moment where faith must move. Faith isn't just believing God when you feel His presence. Faith is believing God when it feels like heaven is silent. Faith is choosing to keep walking when the road is dark. Faith is trusting that God is doing more behind your back than the enemy is doing in front of your face. Faith is saying, Lord, I don't get it right now, but I know you don't make mistakes. And let me tell you something. God's greatest work often comes disguised as confusion. The job that fell apart wasn't failure, it was redirection. The relationship that ended wasn't rejection, it was protection. The door that closed wasn't punishment, it was preparation. But you only see that once you're on the other side. In the moment, you just feel lost. That is why this keynote is so important. Because when life stops making sense, that is the exact moment you must refuse to stop. That is the moment to push, to pray, to trust, to hold on, to take the step even when your legs are shaking. Faith is not a feeling. Faith is movement. Faith is forward motion, even when your heart is full of uncertainty. And the truth is this: the moments that break your understanding are the same moments that build your destiny. If you learn to trust God when the picture is unclear, you will never fear the future again. Trust is not a feeling. It's a decision you make even with tears in your eyes. People often misunderstand faith because they think trust is supposed to feel strong, steady, confident, and unshakable. They imagine that trusting God means you walk boldly into every situation without fear, without hesitation, without a single doubt whispering in the back of your mind. But real trust isn't like that. Real trust is born in the moments when your heart feels heavy, your mind feels overcrowded, and you're fighting back tears that won't stop falling. Real trust is choosing to believe God is still working while your world feels like it's falling apart piece by piece. It's not an emotion, it's a choice. A choice you make again and again, even when everything inside you wants to run, question, or collapse. Some days your faith will feel strong, and other days it will feel like all you have left is a whisper. But trust is not measured by how strong you feel. Trust is measured by your willingness to keep going, to keep believing, to keep holding on even when you're tired. There will be days when you lift your head to pray, and instead of confidence, all you have is confusion. Days where you open your mouth to thank God, but your voice cracks because the pain feels too deep. And even on those days, especially on those days, trust is the decision that says, God, I don't feel brave right now, but I choose you anyway. A trust is choosing God over your emotions, because emotions change with every circumstance. Trust says, Lord, my heart is breaking, but I still believe you. It says, my plans failed, but your plan will not. It says, the situation hurts, but you are still my healer. Trust is the quiet inner strength that keeps you standing when everything in your life is trying to knock you down. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. Most of the time, it's not even visible to the people around you. But God sees every bit of it. He sees you pushing through fear. He sees you wiping your tears and still choosing to pray. He sees you trembling on the inside, but still taking a step forward. He sees the effort no one else notices, and he honors it. There is a reason the greatest breakthroughs come after the hardest seasons. Because trusting God when times are good doesn't grow you. It's easy to trust when the blessings are flowing, when doors are opening, when opportunities are coming, when the path is clear. But trusting God when you're confused, anxious, tired, disappointed, or hurting, that's where spiritual maturity is formed. That's where courage is sharpened. That's where discipline grows roots. You learn things in your pain that you would have never discovered in your comfort. You find strength you didn't know you had. You learn that God doesn't just move mountains around you. He moves mountains inside you. Sometimes trust looks like letting go of answers you'll never receive. Sometimes it looks like surrender, admitting that you don't know what God is doing, but you believe He's doing something. There are seasons where God won't explain Himself, but He'll sustain you. And in that sustaining, you learn what real trust truly means. It means relying on God's character when you can't understand His actions. It means believing He is faithful even when His timing frustrates you. It means choosing Him again and again, even with a trembling heart and tear-filled eyes. Choosing to trust in pain is not weakness. It's worship. It's the kind of faith that heaven responds to. It's the kind of trust that turns storms into testimonies. And it's the kind of decision that leads you into the destiny God created for you long before the pain ever showed up. God's delays are not God's denials. And this is one of the hardest truths to accept when you're living through a season of waiting. Because waiting feels like silence, and silence feels like rejection. It's easy to believe something is wrong with you when life isn't moving at the speed you planned. You look at other people stepping into opportunities, celebrating victories, reaching milestones, and a part of you wonders, why not me? Why am I still here? Why hasn't God answered yet? But what you often forget in those moments is that delay is one of God's greatest tools, not to punish you, but to prepare you. God moves with purpose, and purpose always demands timing. He is too wise to be early and far too loving to be late. When He delays something, It's only because He's perfecting something. What feels like a closed door might actually be a door being reinforced for your future. What feels like being overlooked might be God hiding you until the season is safe for your arrival. Sometimes God is not saying no. He's saying, not yet, not like this, not with them, not in that environment. And while your heart might grow restless, God's heart is steady. He sees what you can't see. He knows the traps ahead of you, the people who are not ready for your presence, the opportunities that would crush you instead of support you, the blessings that would feel like burdens if you received them too early. Delay is not denial, it's divine protection. There are blessings you prayed for that would have broken you if God gave them to you when you first asked. There are places you wanted to go where your character was not strong enough to stand yet. There are relationships you begged God to save that were never meant to survive your next season. And there are dreams you wanted to run toward, not knowing that the foundation beneath them wasn't strong enough to hold the weight of your calling. When God delays something, it's not because He changed His mind. It's because He's changing you. Waiting tests your patience, but it also builds your wisdom. It stretches your faith, but it also shapes your endurance. It may feel like life is standing still, but inside your spirit, something important is happening. Growth that cannot be rushed. Some of the most powerful people you know became powerful because they endured seasons where it looked like nothing was happening. But God was working behind the scenes the entire time. You don't see the roots a tree forms before it breaks through the soil, but without those roots, the tree would fall at the first storm. Your delay is building roots. And understand this, just because you haven't seen the answer yet doesn't mean the answer is not on its way. Some blessings are too big to arrive quickly. Some breakthroughs require alignment with other people, other places, other moments. God is coordinating details you don't even know exist. He's setting up meetings you haven't walked into. He's opening hearts you haven't met yet. He's moving pieces you're not aware of. And when everything is ready, what took years will happen in moments. God can accelerate your destiny so fast, it will make every doubt you carried look foolish. But you must resist the urge to confuse delay with denial. You must not let impatience convince you that God has forgotten you. Silence is not abandonment. Distance is not rejection. Hiddenness is not dismissal. God is not ignoring you. He is designing something worthy of you. And when the moment finally comes, you will look back on this waiting season and realize it was necessary. You will understand that it didn't delay your life. It prepared your life. And you will thank God for every unanswered prayer that was actually answered with protection. Because His delays were never His denials. They were the doorway to everything He promised. You don't need all the answers. You need alignment with God. Most people spend their lives chasing explanations, searching for reasons, trying to figure out every detail before they take a step. They think understanding will give them peace. But peace doesn't come from knowing everything. Peace comes from knowing the one who knows everything. You can spend years asking, why did this happen? Why did that fall apart? Why did God take me this way instead of that way? But answers don't always heal you. What heals you is alignment. When your heart lines up with God's will, you stop fighting battles that were never meant to be yours. You stop stressing about things you were never meant to control. And you stop carrying burdens that God never asked you to lift. Alignment means learning to say, God, I trust the path even when I don't understand the process. It means surrendering the desire to know every detail and replacing it with the desire to walk faithfully. Because the truth is, most of what God is doing in your life will only make sense in hindsight. You'll look back months or years later and finally understand why he closed that door, why he moved that person, why he shifted that opportunity, why he delayed that dream. But in the moment, it will feel confusing. That's why alignment matters more than answers. Answers come after the test. Alignment carries you through the test. When you chase answers, you drain yourself. When you chase alignment, you strengthen yourself. Answers demand explanations, but alignment demands trust. Answers depend on your logic, but alignment depends on your spirit. And the moment you start aligning with God, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What are you teaching me?" You stop asking, "Why now?" and start asking, "How do you want me to grow?" You stop asking, "Why did it happen this way?" and start asking, "Where are you leading me next?" That shift doesn't remove the pain, but it gives the pain purpose. It doesn't erase confusion, but it gives confusion direction. Alignment with God means letting Him lead, even when your emotions try to take over. Your emotions will tell you to panic. Alignment tells you to pray. Your emotions will tell you to give up. Alignment tells you to hold on. Your emotions will tell you it's over, but alignment tells you God is not finished. And when you choose alignment over answers, you give God space to move. Because God cannot work in a heart that's fighting Him. He works through a heart that's yielding, trusting, and open. When you're aligned with God, you don't need to worry about the outcome. You don't need to force things to happen. You don't need to chase opportunities, people, or validation. When you're aligned, blessings find you. Peace finds you. Clarity finds you. The right doors open, not because you pushed them, but because God prepared them. The right people enter your life, not because you chased them, but because God aligned your paths. Alignment puts you in places where your effort isn't the thing carrying you. God's favor is. And let this truth sink deep. When you align with God, He will take you further than understanding ever could. Understanding has limits. Alignment has no limits. Understanding depends on sight. Alignment depends on faith. Understanding makes you analyze, but alignment makes you available. And God can do more with an available heart than with a knowledgeable mind. There will always be things God won't explain yet, things you won't understand, things that don't fit your logic. But you don't need clarity to move. You need obedience. Alignment is choosing God's voice over your feelings. It is trusting the unseen over the seen. It is saying, "God, I don't need to know where this is going. I just need to know you're leading me." And when you walk like that, guided, surrendered, aligned, your life becomes more powerful than anything understanding alone could give you. Every trial is training, and every setback is a setup. Even when it doesn't feel like it in the moment. When life hits you hard, the last thing you think about is growth. When a door slams shut or a plan collapses, your first thought isn't, "This is preparation." Usually it's, "Why is this happening to me?" But the truth is, the moments that feel like they are breaking you are often the moments that are building you. God never wastes pain. He never allows a struggle unless He's pulling strength out of you. He never permits a hardship unless He's planting something inside you that you're going to need later. What you see as a setback, He sees as strategy. What you see as loss, He sees as leveling. What you see as a problem, He sees as preparation. Every trial in your life is shaping something in you. Patience, endurance, resilience, humility, wisdom, compassion. These qualities don't grow when life is easy. They grow when you're going through something that forces you to stretch. You cannot build muscle without resistance, and you cannot build spiritual strength without pressure. Sometimes God will let you walk through a season that feels heavy, because He is preparing you for a future that requires stronger shoulders. You might feel like life is pushing you down, but in reality, God is pushing you forward. He is training you through situations that at first look like setbacks, but reveal themselves to be stepping stones. There are things inside you that you don't discover when everything is going smoothly. Confidence comes from overcoming challenges. Wisdom comes from surviving mistakes. Growth comes from walking through the valley, not just standing on the mountain. The reason your trial hurts is because it's stretching you beyond your comfort, and nothing grows inside comfort. Your strength is forged in the fire, not in the sunshine, and that fire is often disguised as failure, disappointment, or delay. But it's not destroying you, it's refining you. Sometimes the blessing is not what God gives you, but what He grows in you during the battle. The courage to speak up, the discipline to keep going, the maturity to wait for the right time, the faith to stand even when the ground feels unstable. All of that comes from trials. Setbacks are not signs that God is abandoning you. They are signs that God is preparing you. People who never go through anything never discover who they really are. But people who fight through storms learn their strength. They learn their purpose. They learn their identity. They learn their God. What you think is the end of your journey is often just the beginning of your next level. You think you're being blocked, but you're being positioned. You think you're being delayed, but you're being developed. You think you lost something valuable, but God was removing what couldn't go where you're headed. A setback might feel like you're going backward, but God is pulling you back the way a person pulls back an arrow, because the release will launch you into something greater. You can't soar if you've never been stretched. You can't rise if you've never been pushed. You can't lead if you've never learned through struggle. Every setback carries a lesson disguised as pain. Every trial carries a breakthrough disguised as difficulty. The things that hurt you also teach you. The things that disappoint you also direct you. The things that break you also build you. If you pay attention, you'll realize that every hardship carved strength into your character. Every disappointment taught you who you are. Every moment of pressure revealed the power inside you that you didn't know you had. Nothing you've been through is wasted. Not one tear, not one loss, not one heartbreak, not one delay. Every single one was training, and every single one was setting you up for the moment God is preparing. When He finally opens the door, you'll walk through it with a strength you earned in the struggle and a wisdom you gained from every step of the journey. Trusting God transforms fear into focus and panic into purpose. And this truth becomes real only when you've walked through enough storms to see how He turns chaos into clarity. Fear is loud. It speaks in the middle of the night. It creeps into your thoughts, telling you that everything is falling apart, telling you that you are not enough, telling you that you'll fail before you even try. Panic makes you feel like you have to fix everything right now, solve everything right now, understand everything right now. But trust interrupts that cycle. Trust steps into the middle of your storm and says, "Be still. You are not alone. God is here, and He is not shaken." Trust doesn't remove the storm, but it changes how you stand in it. There is a moment in every person's journey where fear tries to take control, where you feel overwhelmed by the unknown, where you look around and all you see is uncertainty. But trust lifts your eyes higher than the situation. Suddenly, instead of focusing on what scares you, you start focusing on who sustains you. Instead of running in circles, you start walking with purpose. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" you start declaring, "What if God shows up bigger than I imagined?" Fear makes you shrink. Trust makes you rise. Panic tells you to rush. Trust teaches you to wait. Panic tells you to react. Trust tells you to breathe and respond. Panic tells you to escape the difficulty. Trust shows you how to endure it and grow through it. The moment you choose trust, your entire approach to life shifts. You stop living like a victim of circumstances and start living like someone guided by divine direction. You stop letting your emotions dictate every step and start letting faith stabilize your feet. Trust is not passive. It is active power. It is strength that builds from the inside out. It gives you clarity in confusion, because when you trust God, your mind becomes grounded, your heart becomes steady, and your spirit becomes confident. You no longer waste energy imagining worst-case scenarios. You start imagining God-sized outcomes. You're no longer chasing people, opportunities, or approval. You're moving with purpose, knowing that what's meant for you will never miss you. That's the gift of trust. It pulls you out of fear and plants you into destiny. When you trust God, you begin to realize that nothing in your life is random. Every delay has meaning. Every setback has purpose. Every unanswered prayer is part of a bigger answer you haven't seen yet. Panic can never give you that perspective. Only trust can. Panic shrinks your world down to the problem in front of you, but trust expands your vision to the God who is above you, before you, and behind you. And here's the part many people don't understand. Trust doesn't mean you feel brave. Most of the time, trust shows up while fear is still in the room. Trust doesn't silence fear. It overrides it. It says, I feel afraid, but I will not be led by fear. It says, my heart is shaking, but my faith is standing. It says, this situation is bigger than me, but God is bigger than the situation. That's when fear begins to lose its grip. The more you trust God, the more your life aligns with purpose. Fear makes you hide. Trust makes you step into places you didn't think you were worthy of. Fear makes you question yourself. Trust reminds you who you are and whose you are. Fear locks you in the past. Trust pushes you toward the future. Fear limits your vision. Trust opens your eyes to opportunities God placed in front of you long before you arrived. When trust becomes your foundation, panic can no longer control your decisions. You stop living in survival mode and start living in purpose mode. You stop reacting to life and start partnering with God in shaping it. Trust gives you the courage to move, the patience to wait, the strength to endure, and the clarity to discern. And once you start living like that, fear may visit, but it will never rule again.